Good morning, afternoon, evening. Welcome to the 8 Eastern Standard Time DFS show, the best DFS show that just happens to start at 8 Eastern Standard Time. My name is Rob Diamond, Rob Diamond on Twitter, Sir Robert 6 on all the main sites. Welcome to another NHL slate breakdown here at RotoPros.com. Really excited for tonight's slate. It is an absolute banger. I think there's a ton of things to happen here. There's going to be some really low ownerships. I think we can jump all over again because it's a Leaf slate. So without any further ado, let's very quickly just jump right into it. I'm tired. I want to get to bed. So let's take care of this. Jump right into this here today. Let me look. Good stuff. Okay. So basically we're going to try and do things a little bit different today. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with tiers. I wanted to start with tiers today because I think it gives a little bit better idea of what the slate should look like and compared to what I just break it down as. So here we go. We have the slates here. So excellent. Yeah, let's just start right away. Tier 1, Tyler Seguin, Austin Matthews, Patrick Kane, Alex Ovechkin. So these are we can expect to be the four biggest slammers of the night, the four biggest players. My personal breakdown, as is Tyler Seguin's going up against a fairly decent Ducks team and arguably the league's best goaltender, Jonathan Gibson, right now. So I'm not exactly looking to target that. Austin Matthews is equally going up against a Washington team that despite, well, as long as they start their real goaltender, they shouldn't have any issues. So I'm not really too concerned about Washington getting blown out here by the usual term of 7 goals by Toronto. But obviously Austin Matthews is fine. Especially since Tavares isn't in this selection. So you can definitely take Austin Matthews for cash. But I think the obvious cash play for me this slate's probably Patrick Kane. You can definitely get away with Ovechkin. But again, I'm just not sure how much upside's going to be in this Toronto-Washington game in comparison to ownerships, which don't really matter for cash, mind you. But especially for GPPs, we can't last a full season here where Toronto have 4 of the 5 top goal scorers in the league. So eventually they are going to get shut out. Eventually they are going to have a low scoring game. The Toronto Washington setup feels more like a cancel out game than a 7-5 game than we've seen over and over again. I'm not sure. Phoenix Copley was in for Washington. I don't expect that to happen again this slate. It should be Holtby back in nets, and he's an infinitely better goaltender. It's tough, right? Because Washington have been blown out a couple times already this season. They have been really high goal-scoring games, excuse me. So, yeah, it's tough for me to say don't take Ovechkin here, obviously, because it is Ovechkin. But Patrick Kane, first of all, has been playing outstanding hockey so far this season. A much more steady shooting floor than Ovechkin. Points galore. He's going up against the St. Louis team who have let in at least 3 goals in every game this season. And out of the 3 games that Jake Allen has played, 2 of those 3 have been 5-goal games that he's allowed, and the other was 3 goals. So I'd be very surprised if Patrick Kane doesn't get multiple points again tonight. I honestly can't say that for Ovechkin. It wouldn't surprise me if Austin Matthews got multiple points tonight, but it's definitely not as strong as Kane. And I'd actually be pretty surprised if Tyler Seguin got multiple points. If in fact Tyler Seguin does get multiple points tonight, it's going to be based off more of a GPP script than an actual cash script. Cash scripts all around. Patrick Kane's really the only one here that's sitting at a multiple point night because St. Louis are just rotten, especially away from home. They should be letting in 5 once more. So I really like Patrick Kane in tier 1. You can definitely get away with Austin Matthews, but that would be as far as I would go. Again, it's hard to not say Ovechkin, but Matthews and Kane are just in better spots than them. Tier 2, John Tavares, Nathan McKinnon, Evgeny Kuznetsov, Sidney Crosby. So this is the first tier where, actually, I shouldn't say the first tier. This is our first opportunity to start stacking. If you do take Ovechkin in tier 1, obviously your idea here is that you're going to want to take Kuznetsov in tier 2. Again, could this happen in cash? Yes, but it isn't a cash play. Could it pay off? Yes, obviously. It just isn't a cash play. The same can be said with Matthews and Tavares. Now, this makes more sense as a cash play in the sense that at least we're banking on the two of the three leading scorers in the entire league going out and getting points. So it's not like we're sitting here wondering what's going to happen or if it can or what will happen. I think it's a pretty straightforward situation that with the two leading scorers in the league, you're probably okay. Again, it feels a little bit too GPP-ish for me. That's why I would prefer to go Patrick Kane and Nathan McKinnon as my cash play here in tier 2. Calgary, it appears, we'll look here again in a moment, but it appears they're starting David Rittich again. That's 5 goals off the hop. You don't even have to really worry about it. Like, it's just, again, Nathan, Colorado did beat Buffalo, what was it, 6-1 last game? And yeah, at least Nathan McKinnon came through for the final 2 goals, mind you, but he was completely off the score sheet for the first 4 goals, so it was a little bit frustrating, but it wasn't the end of the world, obviously. He's one of the leading shooters in the league, one of the better players in the league, and honestly, he stacks later on, but it gives you a nice diversity from tier 1 and tier 2 where so many people will be trying to stack, especially getting on either side of the Washington and Toronto game, and you don't really have to worry about that too much. And since there's no Penguins in tier 1, tier 2, you don't have to worry about stacking Crosby with someone from tier 1. But that being said, once you can definitely use Sidney Crosby here. John Tavares, like I said, you can use in this scenario too. If you're not taking Matthews, it makes a lot more sense to play Tavares there. Yeah, like, see, if you play Crosby here, it actually opens up some really good stacks going through, even cash viable stacks where like Malkin and Crosby in the same card, that kind of thing. But yeah, in terms of just diversifying my cash, I'm going Patrick Kane, Nathan McKinnon. Like I said, there's others that you can go with, but that's just what I like. Tier 3, Jonathan Taves, Jamie Benn, TJ Oshie, Tarasenko, and Jack Eichel. I don't like Jack Eichel for the simple reason they're away from home on the other side of the country. Buffalo is just not a very good team. Despite Arizona being a bad team, it just doesn't pan up compared to the rest of the guys here in this crew. Like, he could just as easy finish with 2.5, which would absolutely ruin you when you pan him up against the rest of these. Like Tarasenko against Cam Ward, Chicago. Like I talked about, if anyone watched the last video and took my advice in the Minnesota Wild, you most definitely were graciously paid off. Because, yeah, Cam Ward's letting in 4 goals. Cam Ward is letting in 5 goals. Cam Ward's letting in 6 goals. Like, these kinds of score lines are happening every single night until Chicago goes out of their way to get a new goaltender. So I have no problem with Tarasenko here. I think he'll be low owned. He's going to get a ton of shots and has probably the highest goal upside. It isn't the worst idea to go TJ Oshie, especially in GPP, if you want to do the Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, TJ Oshie. TJ Oshie is a cash play in comparison to some of these other names. He's not getting the shots. He's blocking enough shots, though. But yeah, just his general role play against the Leafs should be high enough to get some cash exposure there. I'm not crazy about Jamie Benn against Anaheim. And Jonathan Taves against St. Louis is equally viable, especially in this scenario when you have Kane. It would probably make a little bit more sense to go with Kane here, or Taves than Tarasenko. I just think St. Louis have much higher chance of scoring than Chicago, despite Chicago still most likely scoring. So you can use Taves, but I think I'll get to a little bit of both sides of the game here and go with Tarasenko for the high scoring game and make sure you get on both sides. Any chance you take players against Cam Ward, you just have to do it. Tier 4, Morgan Riley, John Carlson, Sean Monahan, Johnny Hockey, Evgeny Malkin, Philippe Forsberg. So the first and real issue here is Sean Monahan and Johnny Hockey being in the same tier. This makes them absolutely unviable in terms of tiers, and basically every other Calgary player equally unviable because they exclusively play each other. This would only work if they're in different tiers and you could stack them. Since they're in the same tier, you can literally cross them off the list because taking one without the other is extremely suboptimal. So they're both gone for both cash and GPP. So we're left with Forsberg, Malkin, Carlson, and Riley. Again, this kind of depends how you're starting off your earlier builds. Morgan Riley, again, to give you an idea, starting at the first, you can go Matthews, Tavares, skip this one, and then jump on Morgan Riley. So you have the three best stacking options for Toronto in the first 4 tiers. You can go whatever, Crosby, whatever, Malkin. So if whatever stacks with 1 and 3 being the Chicago, the Taves and Kane, or what else do we have there? The Jamie Benner, Tyler Seguin stacking with Pittsburgh both work really well. But at the same time, you can't really take Washington because if you go Ovechkin, you're not going to be able to take Crosby. So this is just a GPP talk here. Sorry. Just something I noticed whenever I was looking at tiers earlier. But in terms of cash for tier 4, I think there's a couple different ways, just like the other tiers that you can go. Let me get there. Sorry. Tarasenko, there we go. So yeah, you can cross them out. I think Morgan Riley is the obvious cash play, and it gives you Leaf exposure that isn't goal reliant. Obviously, you can definitely go the Tavares and the Matthews in cash with Morgan Riley if you want. Obviously, again, it's 4 of the 5 top goal scorers in the entire league, so you're not missing out by much by taking all 3 of them. Excuse me, I said 4 of 5, 3 of 5. So yeah, I don't mind this at all, though. Preferably for me to get a little bit more diversity in cash, I'd rather take Morgan Riley as the only Leaf and try and spread it a little bit more, just in case the game doesn't go for 5 goals. Because, like I said, it's just simply not sustainable. But yeah, you can use Morgan Riley. You could use Carlson. Theoretically, he fits the same bill, but I would go to Malkin before I would go to Carlson after Morgan Riley for cash. He should absolutely smash Montreal, obliterate them, in fact. If I was feeling a little bit more confident about this, what I would definitely do is a Crosby Malkin and just say, sorry, McKinnon. I may end up doing this closer to game time. It depends how strongly I'm feeling about Pittsburgh. But yeah, in terms of tier 4, either Morgan Riley or Malkin for either format, there just isn't a lot of reason to go to Forsberg and go to John Carlson when you could go to Morgan Riley instead. So yeah, that's tier 4. We'll go with Morgan Riley. Tier 5, Radulov, Mitch Marner, Letang, Ryan O'Reilly, PK Subban, Trocheck, and Kucherov. So basically at this moment in time, Tampa Bay is untouchable. We simply cannot play them until they start playing better, even in this format, in particular on Classic, where their salaries are still really high. Until they show some kind of form, there's no reason to take them whatsoever. Trocheck's more of a GPP play. Obviously, he doesn't stack really well with anything so far, and he does play line 2, line 1, so he does fit the bill. He just doesn't have a floor. Now, this is where you kind of have to make a decision. In terms of cash, PK Subban is the choice of this tier. Now, obviously, his scores haven't been great, especially when I took him in cash last slate. I still scooped 100%. It was awesome, incredible slate. But yeah, this is massively concerning for me, despite almost playing 25 minutes. That's the problem. He has the highest outside. If you cancel it last game, he has the highest floor out of literally everyone here. Ryan O'Reilly isn't a cash play, and he isn't even really a GPP play because he's going to be lining up against arguably one of the best defensive forwards in the entire world, and Jonathan Taves. So like, there's not a lot to look at with him. Chris Letang isn't a cash forward or a cash play, excuse me, because I've taken him enough times in cash, and I can tell you that he's just as likely to score 1.5 as 5. So he just isn't a cash option, unfortunately, even against Montreal. Mitch Marner, same situation, isn't really a cash play. You could use him as a floor in terms of the amount of times he's shooting, and he does get some block shots. But my concern, again, is just falling back to the first game. But again, it's like, if I'm okay taking Subban, I kind of have to be okay taking Marner. It's just like, I feel if I'm going to take Marner, I'm kind of forced into a situation where I have to take Jonathan Tavares just so I can pair with those two. But yeah, in terms of tier 5, I see, again, Radulov, you can stack a whole bunch of Dallas here right across the board. and Radulov's absolutely cash viable in terms of the role he plays. But like, look at his shot. He's only got 6 shots this season, where Mitch Marner has what, 17, 14, 17 shots this season. Like, yeah, it's hard to consider someone like Radulov a cash play when you have someone like Marner or PK Subban, who's blocking 4 shots a game and taking 4 shots a game. So yeah, I would go PK Subban or Mitch Marner for cash, especially if you're going Toronto. Like with the Tavares, I would go Mitch Marner. I don't like it. I'm going to take PK though. I'm not excited about it. It just seems to make sense to me. The Islanders don't have a goaltender despite being half decent so far this season. So I'm expecting a big game, bounce back game from PK. Just in cash. A GPP, I would not take PK Subban going up against the Islanders. For GPP in tier 5, like I said, go with like the Dallas stacks or the Toronto stacks or the Pittsburgh stacks and try and fill them in as much as you can. You could theoretically, too, in this tier, go with Ryan O'Reilly and GPP again, so you can stack with Tarasenko. I just do not like him standing up against Jonathan Taves all game. That's a nightmare. Not a good script to build into. So, yeah, PK Subban cash for tier 5. Tier 6, Alex Edler, Elias Pettersson, Klingberg, Gensel, Nicholas Backstrom, Victor Arvidsson, Victor Hedman, Steven Stamkos. So like we talked about earlier, Tampa Bay guys are off limits. We just can't touch them until they show. This isn't even, if you want to buy low on someone, do that in GPP. That isn't the idea here in cash. So both those guys are not playable. And they're not really playable from GPP either. It should be a really low-scoring game. Victor Arvidsson isn't a cash play. He just doesn't have the floor. Decent enough player, just doesn't shoot the puck enough. Nicholas Backstrom, exact same kind of situation. Not a cash play, but you can definitely take him in the capital stack, which we'll go back to at the end of tiers here. Gensel's interesting, especially if you're taking Crosby. He hasn't really had the same kind of cash go out that you'd see, but honestly, first line against the Montreal Canadiens, if you're not producing, you should just stop playing. So I think you could take Gensel here if you wanted, just for the simple fact of having a stack with Crosby back in tier 2, I want to say. Yeah, instead of McKinnon. So this isn't bad. Like we talked about earlier, I'll show some different team stacks you can go with. But yeah, in terms of tier 6, it's good. For me, it's up between Klingberg and Edler. You can't really take Pettersson because the only time you can really take Pettersson is when you take Edler in a stack, and that's where it's most viable. Klingberg, to me, is a good pivot off of Edler. He's got decent enough shots, playing tons of minutes on the first line for Dallas. My concern is that they're going up against Anaheim, and he may not have the goal upside, where Alex Edler, I believe, has tons of goal upside. Vancouver are playing excellent. He is easily the highest floor play of any defender across the slate on block shots alone. Not to mention he puts up points. Like, he put up 5.5 points on block shots and shots. No points. No goals, no assists. So, like, legit, Alex Edler is a legit cash play every single slate. And when we get the opportunity to use him with no salary, it's a simple lock. It almost doesn't matter who else you like in the tier. He's just the most elite cash play in the entire league. So you have to jump on that. Tier 7, Phil Kessel, Panarin, Rantanen, Barkov, Horvat, Matthew Barzal, Jonathan Huberdeau, and Patrick Hornqvist. Now, we'll talk about the Pittsburgh a little bit, but there's stacks that can be done. Neither of them are cash plays. And I have a feeling a lot of people are going to be jumping on Phil Kessel here because he got a hat trick last game, and they're not going to understand that it was because he absolutely just set up perfectly to eat all day against Vegas. So yeah, this is more likely what's going to happen. 2.5 from Kessel tonight, and while that's fine and all, it's just not going to win him this group. Like, Rantanen stacking with McKinnon works for cash on top of, because Rantanen's putting enough pucks on net to have a decent floor. He's blocking a little little bit of shots, and he hasn't finished below 2.5 this season. So I have no issue using Rantanen for either format here. I prefer him in cash to go with McKinnon. If GPP, there isn't really much sense in taking Colorado and GPP because there are so many stacking options. So I prefer just taking the Rantanen, McKinnon, and cash against Calgary and just rolling with that. Yeah, if you're going to look for another cash option in tier 7, it's definitely Barkov from Florida, playing line one. Obvious issue here is you take him, you can't really take Edler. It goes against, they'll be playing literally every second against each other. You could get some block shots from Barkov getting shots off that Edler blocks or something weird. But yeah, in terms of like Horvat isn't going to do good enough even from line one. Barzal definitely isn't going to do good enough against Pecorine. If he does, that's a GPP script. Huberdeau does stack okay with other Florida options, but he just isn't a cash play at all. He doesn't have any kind of floor, and he's usually an assist type player. Now, if this keeps up for another couple games, then maybe we'll have something to talk about. But at the same time, Florida just aren't the offensive team that I'm looking for, especially like Phil Kessel should draw all the ownership from this game, or this tier, excuse me, and I'm okay with that, just to roll with Rantanen and hope he gets a couple assists with McKinnon or something like that. Again, Phil Kessel's fine. He'll be fine. He's just not a floor play. I know I kind of contradicted myself there with the Florida talk. I don't like Huberdeau to do scoring. I like Barkov to do scoring. I like Barkov a lot this slate as a whole, honestly. I really like him in cash and classic. His salary's way too low, but we'll get there. We'll get there in a minute. And then finally for tier 8, Tkachuk, Atkinson, Lindholm, Foligno, Craig Smith, Roman Josi. Jaden Schwartz doesn't look like he's going to play. He's not really viable anyways in cash. And Keller on Arizona. I think what upsets me the most about Arizona being awesome DFS options tonight, and they only used Keller in tiers, so that's kind of a bummer. I'm not really interested in that, except for like a GPP flyer when you need someone in tier 7 to use. Roman Josi hasn't been playing well enough this season. I would rather go with PK. I know you could take this and stack the pair of them, and that kind of works. But it's just not viable to me this slate, especially when you have someone like Craig Smith sitting here who's way more of a cash play than both PK and Roman Josi. Craig Smith's been tearing it up all year. His classic salary is awesome too. So I have no issue using Craig Smith in cash or GPP if you want to do some stacking. Not a cash play, Foligno. Elias Lindholm would be a cash play if they're playing anyone other than Colorado away from home. And if you weren't taking McKinnon and Rantanen, you could make sense of GPP. Atkinson isn't really a cash play either. He's going to be okay in the sense that like he plays first line. He does take enough shots, that's for sure. He's basically he's guaranteed 2 fantasy points every single game with his shot. So in classic, that may be fine, but I'm not going to roll with that here. I think there's a lot better options in tier 8. Keller will probably outscore Atkinson. Craig Smith should outscore Atkinson. I think Lindholm even has a better opportunity to outscore Atkinson. And finally, Matthew Tkachuk. He is cash viable. He isn't my favorite cash play. I think I'm going to just keep denying him as if ignore him as if he's not viable. But he absolutely is. You can use him. It goes against the Colorado. So if you're not using Colorado, you can definitely use Tkachuk in cash. But I still prefer Craig Smith, that's for sure. But just a quick rundown here of some different team stacks that you can do. We'll start with the Dallas one. Dallas, skip, Dallas, skip, Dallas, skip, and then skip. So basically, if you can find something that stacks 2, 4, 7, 8, I know a bunch that stack 2, 4. I can think of off the top of my head. So yeah, the Crosby Malkin's probably one of my favorite here. And then you can kind of move the Klingberg around or which one Letang's in. You can move the Radulov for Letang, switching out. A lot of times what I suggest with this is making 2 duplicate cards and then enter them both in GPP. And then on the other one, just like kind of shift out 1 or 2 players from the stack, rearrange them, keep it relevant to the stack, like keep the Pittsburgh Dallas stack theme in line. Just switch the Pittsburgh and Dallas players in and out, that kind of thing. But that way, if they both go off, you're looking at first place and second place, which is a massive payout. So yeah, we can take a quick look at the Torontos. Toronto, skip. Toronto. I don't think there's anything else here. Toronto, is there? No. Exactly. So, like, again, this is for the 5 highest goal scorers in the entire league, right there in tiers. And all you really need is something that stacks in 3 and 6. 3, 6. What do we got? Dallas. You can break off a little Toronto, Dallas if you want, and then, like I said, duplicate and then rearrange it a little bit. Yeah. I was hoping that was a Crosby one. No, never mind. 6. So yeah, I don't want to waste any more time on that. Washington, you can do a Washington there. Oshie and Backstrom. That would be sick too. That would be really low owned. Really, because everyone will be on the first line of Toronto and the Ovechkin line, and not the second line of Washington. That's really sick. I like that a lot. I wonder if there's anything in stacks right here. I don't think so. Anyways, yeah, that's my tiers breakdown. Just like I said, basically for GPP, just find a team that you see a lot of, just click them all, and then fill in the spaces with whatever else makes sense and viable. And that's how you do tiers in GPP. But yeah, let's jump over to the regular slate breakdown. Let me just clear that. And over here. Okay. I think that's football down. No, there's hockey down there, isn't it? Okay. So, Pittsburgh at Montreal. Basically, Pittsburgh should crap all over Montreal, the short of it. Carey Price can only do so much. Taking all the Pittsburgh that you possibly can this slate is massively suggested, especially Evgeny Malkin at only 6.5K. Like, look how far down the list. There's no reason Jack Eichel should be above Evgeny Malkin. There's no reason Crosby should be above Malkin, to be honest. Like, Malkin's been outplaying him by far. So, yeah, when you're looking to start off basically your slate building today, this is probably one of the safest for cash first steps that you can make. Crosby, that's weird. I was seeing that it was Montreal at Pittsburgh earlier today, so I don't know why. I know it's at Montreal. So Hockey Night in Canada, you know it. So yeah, Crosby, a little bit more expensive, a lot more expensive. And it's not going to be really matchup relevant. Like, they both should go ham. Crosby is never shy from having a good game in Montreal. But yeah, I just like Malkin's price at only 6.5K. That's way too cheap for me for cash. But like I said, the rest of this is pretty obvious. If you want to stack anyone, everyone, go ahead. The one guy I would probably go a little bit heavy on this slate, if anyone in Pittsburgh, it would be Patrick Hornqvist. He isn't really a cash play. I shouldn't say he isn't really. He has decent enough shots. He doesn't block shots, but yeah, he doesn't really have that great of a floor either, or he hasn't really come to his ceiling yet. I think he's going to be. The problem with the Pittsburgh-Montreal game is that everyone's going to know Pittsburgh should go ham, and everyone's going to know that Kessel got a hat trick last game. So I just see a lot of the ownership driving towards the Crosby, Malkin, Kessel, and it's going to be very light on Hornqvist. So if there was one Pittsburgh Penguins player I would go over with, it would definitely be Patrick Hornqvist and GPP, and try and catch everyone on the ownership. If you're taking a stack, Hornqvist is an absolute must, again, because he's the one guy that everyone's going to cut out and not use, and that's the only way you're going to differentiate in your GPPs. And for Montreal, there really isn't a whole lot to look at here. I know Pittsburgh aren't very good in terms of keeping the puck out, but I think Jerry, if he does get the start again here, or DeSmith, excuse me, Casey DeSmith, is more than viable. The slate at only 7.8K. Montreal just aren't good enough, plain and simple. They aren't going to put many goals up on the board every night. Pittsburgh, before DeSmith, were letting in tons of goals. I'm hoping that a lot of people will game stack this game and think Montreal is viable because Pittsburgh were letting in so many goals and not realize that DeSmith's making a pretty big difference for them. So yeah, start with Malkin with your slates. Probably a 5-0, 4-0 Pittsburgh win. Maybe one goal for Montreal, but that would probably be the max. And I think I am going to be playing a lot of Casey DeSmith, maybe even in cash. The salary is just really hard to deny. But like I said, a shutout's a very real possibility here for Pittsburgh. All they have to do is just play well enough. Columbus at Tampa Bay. Probably the lowest scoring game of the night. I don't see a lot coming from this game. Tampa Bay has been playing like garbage and do not deserve their salaries. 7.1K for a guy who's, yeah, he didn't even put a shot on. Only put 2 shots on net all season. Hasn't finished more than 1.2 yet. Like, that isn't worth 7.1. I don't care how good he was last year. So Columbus are a good enough team, as they showed last game, to put goals on the net, to fight with any team. And I don't see a lot of fight with Tampa Bay right now. They're more likely to put up donuts and zeros and low scores than break a slate in GPP or even find serious value in cash. As always, you could probably use the Dubois Wenberg. It's a little bit more expensive than I would like. I was hoping Wenberg would be a little bit more lower than 4.5 going up against a team like Tampa Bay. But yeah, I have no issue. They're a little bit lower on the scale of in terms of high end, low end. They're on the lower scale of a stack, but it'll be low end, that's for sure. Probably 2-1 either way. 3-1, 3-2, that kind of game. Not really high scoring. No real floors, so no real ceilings. I really don't like Tampa Bay. Biggest fade for me this slate. Braden Point maybe at 4.9K, maybe, but that would definitely be as far as I would go. Like, I also like Tyler Johnson from this salary, but he's just not doing anything. Even that's actually okay. I thought he had an assist and nothing else. My bad. So yeah, 4.2. That isn't the worst thing either. But you're chasing floor. That's basically it for Tampa Bay. They really aren't anything high end, low scoring. It's 2-1 Columbus. Let's go with that. Vancouver at Florida. So Vancouver's been playing absolutely out of this world. I say that in comparison to what they should be doing. Elias Pettersson's been an absolute breakthrough for them. Brock Boeser got a goal last slate, so that's big for him. To finally get on the board. Globin is way too cheap for the amount of minutes he plays. I'm not interested in him, but like his line two is super, super useful. I guess he isn't. That was a little bit weaker. This is what I was expecting more of again. But yeah, really, again, let's see what Edler costs. 5.6K is too cheap. Best cash play in the league. You just have to roll with it. And like Florida are good enough as is too. Like, don't get me wrong. Barkov's way too cheap from 5.7K. Obviously, you can't use them both together in cash. But at the same time, Dadonov at 5.4K, they're not coming out. Anytime they play, it's going to be line one against a Vancouver team who just aren't very good despite playing very well. So I don't mind Florida and GPP, especially GPP. I think you get away with Barkov and cash, but I'd rather just take Edler and cash and walk. 4-2 Florida. Hard to say. 3-1 maybe. I think one of these two teams will win by 2 goals. It'll be a lot closer than the score shows, and there won't be a lot of skill. It's going to be a fairly boring, flat game, much like the Columbus-Tampa Bay. If there's one game I would make sure not to watch, it's definitely Columbus at Tampa Bay. But yeah, it's followed very closely behind by that other Florida team in Florida, Vancouver at Florida. So yeah, take Edler and just be happy with his points. Toronto at Washington. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this game because if you haven't heard of these two teams yet, you really shouldn't play tonight and take another night to research exactly what hockey is. Basically, every major name is playing in this game tonight. I expect all the ownership to be drawn to this game. I think, especially for GPPs, I think there's a bigger edge fading this game than actually trying to get a piece. Like I said, it's getting to the point for Toronto where there is going to have to be some variance kick in eventually here, and they're not going to score 5 to 7 goals a night. And something's going to happen where they're just not going to put that many pucks in the net. I don't think it's going to be an injury or something like that. I don't think Holtby's going to steal a show. Like, this could very easily be a 4-3 Washington win in overtime, and 3 goals over Toronto's salaries are going to be absolutely disastrous when Pittsburgh wins 5-0. So, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, if this score finishes 7-5 Toronto Washington, it wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't be like, what just happened? What is life? Like, obviously, it's a very obvious scoreline. I just think there's a whole lot of warrant to starting to fade these numbers and these names and these salaries because they're going to draw so much ownership every single night in GPP. And cash, it doesn't really matter. Just literally pick a dart, throw it, whoever it lands on, great. I don't like Matthews' salary. I do like Tavares' salary, but the build that we're starting at this point, it just doesn't make sense to take another huge salary at the center position. And we know Patrick Kane's still to come. So, like, we kind of have to wait and be a little bit more patient here, I guess you could say. And that's another reason I have no issue fading this game is because I think all the other big salaries are in a great spot to produce. Again, outside the Toronto-Washington game, the Pittsburgh salary should have no issue paying off, even against Price. I'm not crazy about Seguin, but I think they have just as much power to go off as Toronto against Washington. Washington just won the Cup. They're not completely incompetent. So, like, Toronto just aren't going to walk in here and do whatever they want. I know some other teams have, but, like I said, all this ownership has just got me thinking like eventually this has got to change a little bit, at least for one night. That's why I'm saying not for cash. You don't want to really consider this for cash, but for GPP, don't be afraid just to fade this game and hope that they have a pedestrian night for once. Because, yeah, like I said, Austin Matthews only getting 4 fantasy points from 8K is going to ruin you in GPP. Unless literally the entire slate craps off and nobody else scores more than 4 fantasy points. I just don't see it happening. So, yeah, I'm fading this for GPP. In cash, it's super obvious. If you're not familiar with the teams, you just open up the tab, you put in Daily Faceoff or leftwinglock.com. That's dailyfaceoff.com or leftwinglock.com. That's 2 excellent sites that I use on the regular to check out lines, breakdowns, news, everything like that. But in terms of the Toronto Washington, is there... Like, you could try and hack a little bit with Kapanen, maybe get a little piece with Hyman. But if there's anywhere, again, it's kind of like the maybe a little Kadri. Again, that's a GPP chase, so that's definitely not a cash chase. I think if you're going to do anything for cash here, it's tough. Again, because we know Patrick Kane's in the waiting here. So I don't mind Morgan Riley. We'll take him for now, see how the build continues here, because I know this is too expensive. I just know it is. But we'll continue on here because obviously Morgan Riley and Alex Edler are the 2 best defensive plays of the entire slate. No one should come close to them in terms of floor or ceiling. So, yeah, that's really Morgan Riley if I'm going to take anyone in cash. GPP, I may just fade the game or take a whole bunch of Toronto. I just don't see the sense in taking Washington personally when you can just take the bigger chance in Toronto. I'm going to say again 4-3 Washington, 3-2 Washington. Everyone will be frustrated. Austin Matthews finishes below 2 fantasy points. Oh, how's that for a bold call? There's one for you. He finishes 1.5 with either 2 shots and a block shot or 3 shots tonight. So yeah, that's my take. I think Washington's a team to reckon with at home. 3-2 Washington. New York Islanders at the Nashville Predators. This is another game that you can safely fade for GPP. Every Nashville game is going to be super low scoring because Pekka Rinne is so awesome. And a lot of times, unless they like fall on 4 goals, Nashville aren't going to go out of their way to score 4 goals a game like some other Maple Leafy options will. So yeah, I think there are still options in this game. Barzal makes sense, but it's just way too expensive. Flip side, you can go tourist and save all this money. Ryan Johansson's absolutely viable for cash. I'll just throw this out here. The New York Islanders are punching so obscenely above their weight right now in terms of their goaltending options. It's a little bit disturbing. So I'm not going to sit here for 1 second and pretend that the New York Islanders have a long-term option. They are not. I don't care who you are. You literally sit down with me. Let's bet 100 times over the season if Robin Lehner is going to have a good game, and I'm going to come out on top. It's just not a debate. He's not a good goaltender. Same with Thomas Greiss. He had his chance with San Jose, and he let in literally 5 goals a game. I don't know what to tell you other than that. Like, this isn't going to continue. This isn't something that is a long-term threat from the New York Islanders. So someone like Ryan Johansson playing line one at home, absolutely viable in cash. I think they could be interesting in GPP in the sense of ownership and salary, but they just don't have a ceiling that other teams have. Even from that salary, I think there's equal salary teams with bigger ceilings. So yeah, again, you can take Craig Smith in cash every single week, and you're not gonna be losing out on too much. Again, 5.7K this week is a little bit more expensive than I usually like it. I like him a little bit down more, but I think that's more a definitive of how much DraftKings expects him to actually do against the Islanders. That's the only thing I would take from this game. Subban's way too expensive for Classic. There's no way I'm paying 6.2 when I could have Edler or Morgan Riley. There's just no way. It makes literally no sense. So yeah, you could get away with some Pekka Rinne, a little bit too expensive for me. I've found so far this season, usually the expensive goalies have been screwing off pretty hard. So I'm not interested in spending up again this slate. I'm going to keep avoiding that for the time being until there's a little bit more stability kicks in. But yeah, 4-1 Nashville, 4-2 tops. Maybe even 3-0 again, like last slate. I think you can start to expect a lot of those games from Nashville. I think it was 3-0, wasn't it? Yeah, 3-0. 3-0. Exactly my point. 3 goals. So yeah, they even lost that game 3-0. Whatever. 3-0. It's their thing. It's what they do. So there's not a lot of ceilings to chase. Craig Smith will still do fine. 5.7K. He's not my favorite cash play, but you can take him every single week. Dallas at Anaheim. Again, really tough game to call. I want to talk about how much offensive talent's on both teams, but the fact is Anaheim's completely injured, like literally completely injured. No Getzlaf, no Perry, no Patrick Eves, no Andre Case. Like, this has been their first line for 2 straight seasons. These 4 players with Eves and Case jumping in and out and stuff like that. So like that's tough. That's not something they can just easily rebound from. I like Adam Henrique as a player. He's just not a DFS player, unfortunately. He's more of a shutdown role type player. Same with Kessler. The pair of them are incredible at shutting down players, which makes me a little bit suspicious, if that's the word, of Dallas' salaries, especially Sagan at 8.6. I know he's at home, so he's going to get some matchups, but like literally, you don't really want to play any of the Ducks lines. They're all really hard to play with, and they have a really good goaltender right now. That being said, I think so much ownership is going to be drawn to the Pittsburgh-Toronto side of things that by the time you start getting around to, picking a team like Dallas, there's not going to be anybody on them. You just can't afford these salaries with Toronto or with Pittsburgh. Like if you take Toronto or Pittsburgh, you have to take a second line team to stack with from somewhere else, or Nashville or another team we're going to talk about here shortly. So like, yeah, I like Dallas in the sense that they have an ownership edge, I think's there, and they still have upside, but Anaheim's just not the team I'm looking to pick on. Really low scoring game. Like I said, 2-0 Dallas maybe. I don't see Anaheim scoring a lot of goals either because they are so hurt, and Dallas is fairly capable at the back. Once again, if I'm going to do anything in Dallas, this is definitely the first place I'm going to pick every single slate. You don't even have to think about it. Issa Lindell. Why is Carrick more expensive? That's what I want to figure out right now. Why is Connor Carrick more expensive? He's playing there. Weird. He's not even playing on the power play, and he's more expensive. Heiskaken's also there too, but he just doesn't have the first-line exposure that Lindell does. So, yeah, again, anytime Lindell's at home, you can take him for 2 fantasy points. And from 3.5K, that's absolutely all you need because it opens up all the doors. There. That's my spiel. Not prepared or read from or anything. That's just the facts of the matter with Dallas and Issa Lindell. Like I said, you can take them all. Go for it. Still too expensive considering Anaheim are doing so well this season. But, yeah, low-scoring game, so could be worth it. 2-0 Dallas. That's what I'm saying. St. Louis at Chicago. Wha-bam. Get ready to make all the money in the entire world. Watch this. Click, click, switch, click, click, click. No, I'm not done yet. Oh, I'm not done. No way. Click. Oh, now we're basically out of money. Oh, we're out of money. That's what I wanted anyways, those two. DeSmith sounds like a logical goaltender. Drop someone for 3K. You could probably do that from this whole list. Anyways, my point is this game should outscore every other game this slate. In terms of combined goals, Pittsburgh could score 5, and these two teams may not. They should. One of them, if not both, should score 5. Like that's the thing. Like I think a lot of people are going to jump on the Pittsburgh game expecting them to score 5, and they may not. I think people are going to jump on the Toronto-Washington game hoping for a 7-5 game, and it'll end up being half that at 3-2. I think people jump next on Dallas, hoping for the upside of Dallas, and they're going up against a really hard team in Anaheim at Dallas. So excuse me. So like again, they may not go off, but like this game's near guaranteed to go off. The goaltenders are really bad, like really, really bad. 4 goals and a loss, 4 goals and a loss, 7 goals and a loss. 4 goals and a loss, and they were up 3-0 with like 10 minutes left. Jake Allen, same situation. Averages 1.7 so far this season. Allowed 5 goals, allowed 5 goals, allowed 3 goals, and they won. So, like, yeah, this isn't the game to target defending and goaltending. I think all over this I'm going to get this game as much as I can into GPP, see how often I can manipulate it, work around it, see what happens. Could it flunk out and do anything or do nothing, excuse me? Sure, obviously, all the time. I was wrong about St. Louis last slate. I was talked up Tarasenko till I couldn't talk anymore, and 3.5 was great from 7 shots, except when you scroll down and you look at, where is he? This says this. No, there it was. Sorry. David Perron, the second line, him getting 3 goals, and Braden Shen, the most defensive forward in the entire league, getting 3 assists. So, like, incredibly frustrating. I'm still a little bit tilted over it. I'm not going to lie. The fact that they were able, the wrong line, how badly I missed, but, like, was so close at the same time. So, yeah. I love this game all around. One of my actually two of my favorite plays from this game come from each team. The first on the Blues is Tyler Bozak at only 3.9K. If in fact the Blues do score 5 goals, like I'm expecting, third line, first line, power play, first line defender, and he's on the third line with Steen. He's here to pass the puck to Parayko, and he can shoot at 150 miles an hour. So Maroon can screen, and Ryan O'Reilly is more of a setup man for Tarasenko too, for Bozak to pass to. So like, yeah, I love Tyler Bozak from that salary. Not so much in cash. I do think you can get away with it in cash. I don't recommend it, but it's definitely something you can get away with. And on Chicago, one of my favorite players is I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name, Henry Jokiharju, the defender. Last time I checked, he was playing second line. First power play unit, sorry, excuse me, and first line defending for Chicago. So obviously check back on this pre-lock, you know, when lineups come out. I noticed a few people comment and ask questions why I was so hard on Rask when he wasn't starting. I do these videos, if you haven't noticed, the title is 8 Eastern Standard Time or best, but 8 Eastern Standard Time in the morning is actually way before any team practices or lineups come out, and it's technically like 7 a.m. where you are right now, or at whenever it's a 9 a.m. whenever I start this, 8 a.m. where you are. So yeah, like this is way too early for me to know exactly who's starting where. That kind of breaks the day, but as far as I can tell right now, Jokiharju is an absolute lock this slate at only 3.7K. Must play in cash. Absolutely, you have to. It's the only way you can afford guys like Riley or Edler. And obviously, like I guess I did mention yet, like I love this game. I think Patrick Kane's the best play of this entire slate. Tarasenko would be if St. Louis weren't playing so badly in a couple of games. But yeah, like what's not to love here about Kane? Incredible floor of shots. So like even if he doesn't get a goal or an assist, he's still not going to ruin you in the amount of shots he takes. Yeah, Jake Allen's just been garbage this season. So there's no reason to imagine why Kane can't do that from this salary. So yeah, let me bring back, who else do I have here? Malkin and Smith. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. And oh yes, too, you can I still haven't got to my favorite plays of the slate, which is funny, but we're already filled out here. So yeah, that is what my build kind of looks like so far here as we're going along here as I'm talking. But yeah, the St. Louis Chicago game should literally, one team's guaranteed to get 5 goals. So 6-5 overtime, St. Louis. That's my call for this game. I'll even say Chicago was winning going into the third period and lost another third period lead, and people are really going to start pressing the panic button. Like if they haven't already started screaming in the Windy City about not having a viable goaltender for the time being. I don't know what else will do it other than another overtime third period lost lead. So yeah, 6-5 St. Louis. Let's go with it. Buffalo at Arizona, the next game on the slate. Love this game. Love this game. Let me rephrase. I don't love this game. I love the Arizona Coyotes tonight. Absolutely amazing. Branta, totally a GPP option at only 7.4K. Buffalo have not been that good this season. Ekman Larson at only 4.3K. I know he hasn't really put up the numbers yet this season, but he's getting shots. Hasn't blocked. He's usually pretty big on blocking shots, but just his minutes are like, again, give me this many minutes against a guy playing Buffalo, and you're going to do fine from that kind of salary at 4.3K. So, like, I think it's hard to say which defender you want to drop out here from this list. They are my 4 defenders that I'm using for cash. If you're looking to spend up on both centers and another winger, I would suggest dropping Edler for Ekman Larson and using the Joe Correro, Ekman Larson, Lindell, and spending way down on defense. Because the thing with defense is very rarely will you find a slate where a defender was the had-to guy to break the slate. It's kind of like tight ends in football. If anyone plays football, you'll definitely know that the tight end is the most volatile position in all the positional selections. And basically, most weeks you can pick a 2.9K guy in DraftKings, and you'll probably do fine because you'll still score 6 to 8 points like every other tight end. And that's kind of the rule with defenders in NHL DFS too. Like very rarely will you have someone that's the have guy, or at least can't be supplemented by paying down and then spending up everywhere else. Because, like I said, everywhere else has the have-to guys. The centerman's usually the have-to guy. Ovechkin, Kane, Tarasenko, they all play in the wing, not defenders. Like, when's the last time you heard someone say, oh, man, I wish I had Morgan Riley and not Tavares or Matthews or Marner? That isn't what people say. So, like, yeah, you can spend down at defense and just spend up everywhere else. I think I like that idea. Honestly, I'd probably drop Joe Correro just because he's the least tested of the three. I would next probably drop Ekman Larson if I had to, because his scores have been the lowest of the three. It's really hard to keep Edler's salary when you look at all the other winger options, especially at this point when we get to 5.6, because the other cash option for center, you have to play Derek Stepan this slate at 5K at home. You have to do this. It doesn't matter if Arizona are a bad team or if they lose literally every game this season. When someone's playing first line against the Buffalo Sabres at home and they don't cost 6K, you literally have to tie your skates together to not succeed in this situation. And on top of that, Derek Stepan hasn't been that bad this season either. He's got 15 shots this season. I know he had 9 against Anaheim, but 15 shots this season. Come on. Like, what do we want for our cash guy? Like, literally 5K. And then you're able to spend up on one winger, spend down, get 2 6K wingers, whatever you want to do. Like, there's still tons of options here. Tons and tons of options. 6.1 on a winger. Okay, Hornqvist, if you have to. You know what I mean? Like, I know he isn't a cash play, but again, it's against Montreal. Like, yeah. Anyways, Derek Stepan, 5K. He's got my diamond seal of approval for this slate. You play this guy, you're going to be okay. You're going to be fine in either format. I love Arizona and GPP. I'm going to get a good look at this right now just for a second. I'm going to delete it, and I'll bring it back up in a second. But this is just like the nuts of nuts stacks tonight. Look at this. These guys are not coming off the ice for first-line minutes against the Buffalo Sabres, and you can take a goaltender. You can take, you know what, just screw it. Let's take Ranta too. I think that's we are still within our limits there, yeah. 6.2 across the board. Like, you're literally, if you don't spend up at one spot here, you don't go over that 6.2, and you're going to be able to afford everyone. You're literally going to be able to just go 7Ks, click, 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 click. Oh, I'm done. Like, that's literally what you're going to be able to do. Oh, I did it and it didn't really work out. I see that now. Sorry. That's a little bit ironic how much that actually didn't work out. But yeah, gives you a point. What I'm trying to make here, because I do like Nathan McKinnon an awful lot, and I do like Morgan Riley too. But yeah, this right here against Buffalo, really hard to turn down. Really, really hard to turn down. You're not going to find this many first line minute players all in the same place for this kind of salary discount. Like I said, we don't need them to win. I think let me rephrase. Now we don't need them to win. We don't need them to win with the stack. They can still lose 5-2, and they'll do absolutely fine because one of these 2 goals will come from this entire group, and they'll all be worth 2.5 each. So again, I'm sorry for ranting and raving. I love the Coyotes tonight. Absolutely nobody's going to be on them, and it allows you to stack anything. Anything. Yeah, like I said, do what you got to do out here. Get where you got to go. Take Lindell if you have to, for frig's sakes. Take Jack Johnson. I know Jack Johnson isn't really doing that much in terms of scoring, but this guy's a legit player playing line two, playing legit minutes on a legit team. So, like, again, GPP, fire that up if you want to save some money. Is there even anyone this slate that costs? No. Like, so yeah. Most slates you would find someone that costs that much. So I'm just clicking Pittsburgh. That's why there has to be someone that costs that much this slate. What am I doing? Oh, I'm still in the Arizona. That's why I was going to say 8.4. So yeah, you can literally get Austin Matthews and then up your goaltender if you have to. Whatever you want. But like this get Arizona in some GPPs. I'm not guaranteeing they're going to go out and break the slate, but the complementary value of those first line minutes is just uncomparable across the entire league, especially for this slate. So let's rebuild this real quick. Sorry, I'm almost done. I don't want to waste any more time. Jeez. So you had Malkin, Stefan, Kaner, Dell, Heather. One thing I do want to do this slate, I'm like literally holding myself back from doing it, is playing both Tarasenko and Kane in cash. Just that game is just driving me nuts. But yeah, I think we had like Craig Smith or something in here too. We don't really need that. So we want to try and drop down a little bit here if we can. Because, yeah, see, what you can absolutely do here is take Panic and Cash, too, with Stefan. This is absolutely viable if you're not taking Ekman Larson. Again, 11 shots this season. Like, what do you want from these guys? 4 fantasy points in back-to-back games. Obviously, that's a concern. But, like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Like, this is cash viable. They're cash viable. That saves you so much money. So much money. But, yeah, last game, the slate, I really want to talk about as well because, again, it's jamming. Colorado, Calgary. Calgary is starting Rittich. So we can basically expect here that they are not going to be keeping the puck out of the net. So, yeah, I think Nathan McKinnon's absolutely viable again in cash. It's a little bit harder in this setup right now because if you do that, you're kind of gutting yourself for the last 2 selections, which are kind of needed in defense for that kind of salary. So basically, if you're, like I said, if you're going to do that, you're kind of forced into a situation where you either have to take Ekman Larson at 4.3, which gives you a little bit more room, or you're going to have to drop down to the Chicago cat that I can't pronounce, Jokinak Rakaru, at 3.7. And this isn't the worst thing at 4.4 because that's still, that's like the Verana isn't the worst option. Josh Bailey you could get away with, I like Bugelstad, especially if you're taking Barkov. So, like, I think there's lots of guys in here, not to mention the other side of the Arizona. Like, that's even more viable than the Panic side, excuse me, which is a few more hundred. And I think you can even, I'm pretty sure he's 4,600. Let me take a look. Or you can get Captain in here too if you want to get a little bit more Toronto. Yeah, 4K there. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like 4K for a guy who's got that many shots this season. It's just really hard to turn down even for cash. So yeah, that's more talk about Arizona again. Sorry, I gotta stop myself from doing that. Colorado should go ham here. I think they're, especially as a GPP stack, I think they're super, super viable right across the board. Taking McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog, and Jack Johnson, Eric Johnson, the other Johnson. It's a little bit more expensive, obviously, but massively low owned. Again, massively low owned. And people aren't going to notice that Colorado are going out here and putting legitimate scores up. 5-goal, 6-goal games. So yeah, like newsflash, Colorado haven't lost this season. Have they? Did Grabara lose his game? Yeah, he lost his game. Okay, that's fine. So yeah, Varlamov just putting the numbers up this year. Wow, kid. 8.1K isn't that bad either. So yeah, I just really like Colorado. Their ownership's going to be rock bottom. Like I said, if you take Pittsburgh or Toronto or Washington or Dallas or St. Louis or Chicago, you're not going to be able to afford Colorado once you get to the very end, especially in a stacking format. Now, if you want to be really, really risky tonight, I say risky as in like you're going to be holding something in your hands for most of the night here, waiting, wondering what's going to take place. Because yeah, that's a stack right there. Obviously, you're going to have to put in another skater. DraftKings won't let this go through. It only has 2 teams. You need 3 different teams. But still gives you an idea. You're waiting for the last 2 games in a slate, which will have the Pittsburgh, Toronto, Washington, and Dallas, and St. Louis, and Chicago ownership all start before your ownership, literally entirely start before your ownership. So I think it's risky in the sense that like you're going to be waiting, praying, hoping, wondering what's going to happen. But yeah, I think that would be pretty neat to stack Colorado and Arizona. But yeah, that's really my slate breakdown. I think Colorado are going to go ham again to the tone of 5 goals. Calgary, depending if Grabauer starts, if Grabauer does start for Calgary, I think they have a little bit more chance to score 4 goals. But if Varlamov starts, they're not going to score more than 2 goals on Colorado. So 5-2, 5-4 kind of game. I think there's lots of goals to be had. I'm not keen on Calgary just because I never am. They aren't a very friendly DFS team outside their top line, but they're deep enough that they can cause problems for other teams. So I think Colorado's going to smash them. Like I said, 5-2 Colorado. Yeah, that is really my slate breakdown. I guess we can really quickly take a look at FanDuel. Take a quick see, like John Gibson. Oh, what's his salary over here? Oh, I don't want to do that there. What is Gibson's salary? 7.2. Wow, that's low on DraftKings for the league's best goaltender at the moment. Okay. I do like Reimers for GPP, both sites. I think he's super interesting. Yeah, Dismiss way too cheap over here. Way too cheap. I have a feeling there's another really cheap. Grabauer, way too cheap over here. But yeah, DeSmith is really the guy in FanDuel you should be rocking. Like you can literally just skip those 2 at the top and you'll probably be fine. See who else we got here. There's got to be someone. Yeah, like Edler 5.2. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the 8 fantasy points for free. Obviously, Ekman Larson is a lot more expensive over here. I'm not making the same mistake in McDonough again tonight. That was a massive mistake last slate. I really regret that. Had him in a huge spot. His goose egg cost me thousands of dollars. So I'm bitter. I am recency biasing him, but yeah, Niskanen again. He's always too cheap. There's Lindell 4.2. I want to see where my main man in Chicago is. I have a feeling I'm gonna say 3.7. 3.9. I was close. So yeah, let's just for the sake of discussion here, drop Edler out and spend down here again because on FanDuel it's a little bit different world where once you start spending up, you're getting a lot more bang for your buck. So like, look how cheap Austin Matthews is over here. I know John Tavares is the better cash play, but yeah, like Barkov, like I said, I like Florida for GPPs. I think they're super sneaky. A little bit expensive. Not going to lie over here. A little bit expensive. I'm surprised he's not priced below someone like Ryan O'Reilly and Ryan Johansson, like I was talking about. He's pretty interesting. More on DraftKings with the salary, though. I like I said, Tyler Bozak, too. I don't see him quite yet. There's Bozak there, 4.5. That's nice and cheap over here. I don't think there's any other super value center plays to roll with. Yeah, turtleneck, no thanks. So yeah, let's check out wingers. Obviously, again, you want to roll with Patrick Kane in the slate, and Tarasenko's up there in price. I'm more comfortable fading Phil Kessel just in the grounds that people are going to be all over him because of his hat trick last game. I just don't see him repeating the hat trick. Again, I'd rather go to Hornqvist if anyone. It's tough in FanDuel because you really want those power play and penalty kill minutes, right? Because that's where all the bonuses are. They have a ton of bonuses over here for those. So surprise, that was panic, wasn't it? 4.4. Not really seeing any. Yeah, this is just too cheap for someone that plays in that position in Toronto. It's just too cheap. I know he doesn't play power play, literally contradicting what I just said, but I just like Kapanen an awful lot on Toronto. Yeah. He's playing first line. Like, how can you go wrong at 3.6K? You can't. That's the answer to that question. You can't go wrong because then it allows you to literally take 7.9K in your last two positions. Well, 7.9K. Geez, that's a tough one. Basically, any elite player. Just for the sake of it, let's go. I bet you go Gensel, even Marner. Whatever, 9.2. You can't spend all that money. 6.9, 9K. You can't spend that money. Even if you go up to Ovechkin, how much does that leave? 7.1. Lots of money. You're gonna have to spend down there again in center just to be able to work with that kind of salary, so you could spend up again someplace else. So, yeah, like. I really like the spending down defense this way. I think there's some really interesting low-owned options. The Joe Corraro on Blackhawks, Elisa Lindell on Dallas, Ekman Larson on Arizona. And if you want to be really sneaky, Jack Johnson on Pittsburgh or Vince Dunn on St. Louis. I think they're all super sneaky cheap. But in terms of cash, you're going to have to get Patrick Kane in this slate. Again, Derek Stepan is just too cheap on both sites for cash. You're going to have to get him in. And it's probably better even in cash to pair him with either Panic or Hinostra, preferably Panic on DraftKings because you're getting 11 shots for 4K, 4 point nothing, clearly 4K. So like that's super hard to turn down. But yeah. That's really my slate breakdown. Again, I hope everyone enjoyed that. I hope everyone got some information there. I hope I didn't really miss any questions. So I'll take a quick look here just to make sure I didn't miss anyone because I don't like leaving people waiting a whole week for a question to be answered. No, it looks good here. So yeah, thanks a lot for tuning in, everyone. I really appreciate it. RotoPros.com. Rad Rob Diamond on Twitter. Give me a follow on Twitter. I always follow back. Like and subscribe on here, please. We really appreciate it. Always having a blast. Good luck tonight. See you all later. See you at the top of the leaderboard. Much love, everyone. Take care.